If you're tired of being the nice guy and constantly feeling left in the dust while others seem to effortlessly capture women's attention, you're not alone. It's frustrating, isn't it? You go out of your way to be respectful, kind, and accommodating, yet somehow the results never match your efforts. Instead of sparking romantic interest, you end up stuck in the dreaded friend zone, or worse, completely overlooked. But here's the kicker. While it's easy to blame attraction on superficial preferences or bad luck, the truth might hit closer to home. Attraction is a tricky thing, but it isn't just based on how nice you are. Sometimes what you say can be a huge roadblock. Yep, the phrases you choose, the way you frame your thoughts, or even your tone can unintentionally send the wrong message. The last thing you want is for your words to come off as insecure, manipulative, or overly clingy, right? Today, we're uncovering the 7 common things that men, especially self-proclaimed nice guys, say that can kill attraction faster than a bucket of cold water. Hold up, don't panic. Recognizing these red flag remarks is the first step. What's even better is you can start shifting the narrative today. Sound good? Awesome. Let's get into it. Overview of nice guy syndrome. Before we get into the specifics, let's talk about what nice guy syndrome actually is, because understanding the root will help make sense of it all. Being a nice guy isn't the problem. It's the expectation that comes with it. Somewhere along the way, many men are taught that if they're endlessly sweet, accommodating, and agreeable, good things will come back to them, especially in the dating world. You hold the door, you listen to her every word, you shy away from conflict, and voila, you're supposed to win her over, right? But reality doesn't quite work like that. Here's the tough truth. When you tie all your worth to niceness, you might unintentionally project entitlement, desperation, or a lack of authenticity. And women? They notice. This surface-level approach, centered on people-pleasing and earning affection, often pushes people away more than it draws them in. Why? It just doesn't feel real. Women want genuine connections built on mutual respect, confidence, and shared values, not a checklist of nice guy behaviors expected to earn rewards. The real problem lies in the actions that stem from this misunderstood mindset, especially through words. What you say can reveal insecurity, bitterness, or even emotional manipulation, even when it's not what you mean. If you've landed here wondering why nice guys finish last, trust me, you're in the right place. Let's break down these phrases and the fixes to turn it all around. Entitlement. Behavior ever caught yourself muttering something like, "Why do women always go for jerks?" Or "Nice guys like me never get a chance." It's a common sentiment, yet it's a dangerous one. On the surface, these phrases might seem like harmless expressions of frustration, but underneath lies a problematic mindset known as entitlement behavior. When you say things like this, whether you realize it or not, you're framing relationships as a transaction where your kindness earns you affection or romantic interest. Here's the hard truth, friend. No one owes you love, a date, or their attention just because you've been polite. This entitlement stems from a misunderstanding of what niceness truly is. Being nice isn't a strategy or ticket to romantic success. It's just a baseline expectation for how we should treat others. However, when niceness is coupled with the belief that it guarantees results, things get sticky. Comments like, "Why can't women appreciate guys like me?" often come off as bitter. They put the other person in an awkward spot where they feel uncomfortably pressured to defend their choices or reassure you. It no longer feels like a genuine interaction, but rather a manipulation, consciously or not, to gain validation. Now, think about it. Imagine someone reversed the roles and said to you, "Why doesn't anyone give me a chance? I'm so great." You'd likely feel like you're being guilt-tripped into liking them. That's what entitlement comments do. They impose your unmet expectations onto others, turning potential connections into awkward exchanges. And this destroys authenticity, which is key to true intimacy. The great news? You can shift this mindset. Start by focusing on the idea of mutuality rather than transactions. True relationships aren't about what you can get in return for your actions. They're about building meaningful, organic bonds that bring value to both people's lives. Instead of lamenting why kindness hasn't paid off, channel that frustration into self-reflection. Ask yourself, am I engaging in these situations with a truly open mind, or am I looking for validation? When you approach relationships with no strings attached, you'll notice that your connections feel lighter, more natural, and far more fulfilling. Remember, respect breeds respect. Start seeing romantic possibilities as partnerships, not exchanges. Excessive agreement, we've all done it. Nodding along just to avoid conflict or saying, "I totally agree," even though we might feel differently. Being agreeable might seem like a good move in the moment. Nobody likes arguments, right? But when it becomes a habit, it can have unintended consequences. If you find yourself nodding enthusiastically at everything she says or constantly deferring to her preferences, it can give the impression that you lack individuality. And individuality, that's what makes you interesting. Excessive agreement often stems from a fear of being disliked. Maybe you think that if you voice a different opinion, she'll pull away. Or perhaps you believe that taking the lead in decisions makes you seem controlling. But here's the surprising twist. Women, like anyone else, typically find it more attractive when someone has their own views, interests, and the confidence to share them. Without that, you risk coming across as spineless or even disingenuous. There's nothing wrong with agreeing from time to time. After all, common ground is important in any relationship. But if you're always nodding along or saying whatever you want, you could unintentionally make her feel like the dynamic is one-sided. Relationships thrive when both people feel free to speak up and make decisions together. The overuse of agreement eventually creates imbalance, where one person feels like their preferences dictate everything, leaving the other as a passive participant. This leads to frustration on both sides. The fix: small, intentional changes. Start by respectfully sharing a different perspective, even over something minor. Maybe she suggests trying a new restaurant, and instead of blindly agreeing, you could say, "That sounds fun. I've also heard great things about this other spot. Want to check it out?" This subtle shift shows you're an equal partner in the interaction, not just going along with the flow. Over time, this approach builds mutual respect and appreciation. Bonus: it boosts your confidence in standing your ground without being confrontational. That balance is everything. Overloading with compliments. "Wow, you're stunning. How are you not a model? You have the most beautiful eyes I've ever seen." Compliments like these are sweet, right? Well, not always. While thoughtful compliments can absolutely strengthen attraction, overloading someone with generic or excessive flattery can sometimes have the opposite effect. If you're constantly showering her with remarks about her looks or abilities, it might start to feel less genuine and more like an attempt to win her approval. The issue with overloading compliments is twofold. First, it creates a dynamic where she feels like she's being put on a pedestal. The more you focus on her physical appearance or charm, the more the relationship begins to feel unbalanced, as if you're beneath her. While nobody minds a little admiration, too much of it can feel awkward or even burdensome. Most women want to be appreciated for who they are beyond their looks, not because you've decided they're perfect. Second, overusing compliments can make you seem desperate or overly infatuated. If every interaction revolves around you gushing over her, she may start to wonder if you're truly interested in her as a person, or if you're just saying what you think she wants to hear. And when someone questions your intentions, it creates doubt, not attraction. The key to getting this right: quality over quantity. Instead of relying on surface-level remarks, pay attention to her actions or personality and compliment those instead. For instance, instead of saying, "You're gorgeous," try saying, "I really admire how passionate you are about insert specific interest or activity. It's inspiring to see someone so driven." This approach not only shows you've been paying attention, but also gives depth to your admiration. Ultimately, thoughtful compliments that highlight personality and shared values will always outshine generic praise. Focus on connecting authentically, and the rest will follow. Over-apologizing behavior. Sorry. Oh, I hope I'm not bothering you. I'm sorry for taking up your time. Does this sound familiar? If you're the kind of person who includes an apology in every interaction, it might be time to hit pause. Over-apologizing is one of the easiest ways to signal insecurity without even realizing it. While being polite is a valuable trait, apologizing excessively can undermine your self-confidence and, by extension, your relationships. Think about it this way. When you say sorry for every little thing, you may believe you're being considerate, but what you're really doing is undervaluing yourself. Apologies are powerful because they show accountability when something goes wrong. However, when used unnecessarily, they lose their impact and begin to signal that you view yourself as an inconvenience. Over-apologizing also creates imbalance in interactions, as the other person may feel burdened to constantly reassure you. Take the example of texting. If you start every message with "sorry to bother you," you're essentially taking up space in the conversation by apologizing for simply existing in her world. Over time, this diminishes your presence and makes the interaction feel lopsided, like she's doing you a favor by engaging with you. Changing this habit requires intentional practice. When you feel the urge to apologize reflexively, pause and ask yourself, did I truly do something that warrants an apology? If the answer is no, choose a more confident phrasing instead. For example, instead of "sorry for texting so late," say, "I hope your evening is going well. Wanted to check in about insert topic." This approach feels polite yet self-assured, which is far more attractive. Remember, confidence doesn't mean arrogance. It means recognizing and owning your value. When you stop apologizing for every little thing, you naturally encourage others to see and appreciate your worth. Self-deprecation. Imagine this. You're having an amazing conversation. The vibe is good, the chemistry feels right, and suddenly, out of nowhere, you blurt out, "You're way out of my league," or "I can't believe someone like you is interested in me." You hope this comes across as charming or self-aware, but instead, it plants a seed of discomfort. Why? Because self-deprecating remarks can be a serious buzzkill, signaling insecurity and making someone feel like they need to constantly validate your worth. When you put yourself down, whether jokingly or sincerely, you unintentionally shift the focus of the interaction from mutual enjoyment to your own perceived inadequacies. It's like walking onto center stage with a sign that says, "Convince me I'm good enough for you." No one enters a date or conversation hoping to become someone's personal cheerleader. Self-deprecating comments create an unbalanced dynamic by placing emotional labor on the other person, forcing them to reassure you instead of fully enjoying the moment. This behavior often springs from a genuine place, like trying to sound humble or relatable. But here's the thing. Humility doesn't mean putting yourself down. There's a big difference between laughing at a harmless personal quirk, "Oops, I always spill coffee," and framing yourself as unworthy of someone's attention. "You probably have 10 other guys who are better than me." The first signals self-awareness and confidence in your imperfections. The latter, a red flag that screams insecurity. The good news is that fixing this is simpler than it seems. It starts with reframing your internal narrative. Confidence isn't about pretending you're perfect. It's about seeing your worth despite imperfections. Instead of leading with what you think you lack, focus on creating moments of genuine connection. Say something like, "It's so refreshing to talk to someone who's passionate about topic she mentioned." Statements like these feel generous, not needy. They highlight her qualities while placing you on equal footing. Remember, the most attractive trait you can bring to the table is seeing yourself as her equal, not her project. Over-texting and over-investing. Too soon. We've all been there. After an incredible first date or conversation, you can't stop. Replaying everything she said, analyzing every highlight, and before long, you're staring at your texts, wondering why she hasn't replied yet. An hour passes, and there you are, typing, "Hey, just checking if you saw my text." Stop right there. Overtexting and overinvesting too soon are two of the quickest routes to overwhelm your connection. What's the psychology behind this behavior? Overtexting often stems from a fear of uncertainty. You're driven by the need to know where you stand, to fill any silence with proof that the other person is still interested. Unfortunately, this relentless checking in can signal insecurity, which is counterproductive to building attraction. Relationships, especially at the beginning, thrive on pacing. When one person comes on too strong, it creates uneven energy, making the other feel like they're being cornered into a conversation or level of intimacy they may not be prepared for yet. More importantly, overinvesting too soon sends the unintended message that your world revolves around this budding connection. Think about it. If you're constantly initiating communication or texting 3 times before she responds once, she might start to wonder if you have your own life, goals, and passions outside of pursuing her. This unbalanced dynamic can be overwhelming and lead her to pull away, not because she isn't interested, but simply because the intensity feels unnatural. The fix? 2 words: self-control. A little patience goes a long way. After sending a text, resist the urge to immediately follow up. Trust the process and give the other person room to engage and show interest naturally. Meanwhile, shift your focus back to your own life. Remember, confidence isn't just about how you act. It's about respecting your own time and recognizing your worth without constantly seeking external validation. Go to the gym, work on your hobbies, meet friends, live a full life. When you invest in yourself, you create a balance that naturally makes you more attractive. Claiming to be different from other guys, the classic, "I'm not like other guys." At first glance, it might seem like an innocent attempt to stand out. You want her to know you're unique, that you're not one of those stereotypical bad boys or shallow players. But here's the catch. When you say things like this, it often comes off as insecure or defensive, like you're trying too hard to distance yourself from competition. And that trying too hard tone can tip the scales from charming to off-putting. When a woman hears the words, "I'm not like other guys," it doesn't necessarily reassure her. Instead, she might feel skeptical. Why? Because actions speak louder than words. Anyone can claim to be different. But if you're truly unique, it'll show in how you treat her, how you communicate, and how you respect her boundaries. Proclaiming your difference too soon can also unintentionally spotlight past experiences she might not want to dwell on, forcing her to think about bad exes or reasons she's cautious in dating. Another problem with this phrase? It can sound like you're indirectly criticizing other men or elevating yourself solely by comparison. Women don't necessarily want to hear why you think you're better than others. What they really value is authenticity and mutual respect. No one falls for someone because they say they're unique. They fall for the version of you that isn't afraid to show it through actions. The better approach? Skip the declarations and focus on being yourself. Want to show her you're different? Listen intently to her thoughts without interrupting. Be genuinely curious about her interests. Follow through on your plans. These small, consistent actions will make you stand apart naturally without needing to say a word. And please, avoid the temptation to compare yourself to her past relationships. Be present, not an antidote to her past experiences, but the person she wants to know in the here and now. Root causes of problem behaviors. By now you might be asking, why do I keep falling into these patterns? The short answer, most of these tendencies, whether it's over-apologizing, over-texting, or trying to prove your worth through words, are rooted in deeper insecurities and emotional habits formed over time. Nobody wakes up one day and decides to act insecure. Often, these behaviors stem from unmet needs for validation or fear of rejection that build up over years. Consider self-deprecation, for example. If you grew up in an environment where your achievements were downplayed or where mistakes were criticized harshly, it's easy to internalize the belief that you're inherently not enough. Similarly, over-texting or over-investing can stem from a fear of abandonment or inconsistency in past relationships, where quick reassurance felt like the only way to keep someone around. These habits, while unintentional, reinforce the very insecurities you hope to overcome. To break the cycle, self-awareness is the first step. Start by asking yourself, what triggers these behaviors in me? Am I acting out of fear or confidence? Once you recognize the patterns, you can begin to replace them with healthier habits. Of course, growth doesn't happen overnight, but addressing these emotional roots brings you one step closer to building more secure, fulfilling relationships. The role of healthy boundaries. Here's something transformational. Boundaries aren't just about saying no to others. They're about saying yes to yourself. And if you're someone who frequently bends over backward to accommodate others or avoids conflict at all costs, learning to set healthy boundaries is a game changer for your relationships and self-esteem. Boundaries create a balanced dynamic where both people feel valued, respected, and heard. Without them, it's easy to slip into people-pleasing mode, where you disregard your own needs in pursuit of harmony. And while being accommodating might seem like a good thing on the surface, it can lead to resentment or burnout over time. Healthy boundaries, on the other hand, allow you to express your needs without guilt, while inviting your partner to do the same. They foster mutual respect, and importantly, signal that you value yourself. The easiest way to start establishing boundaries is by practicing small moments of self-advocacy. Whether it's saying, "I need some time to think about that," when you're unsure of a plan, or asserting, "I'm not comfortable with this." When something feels wrong, you create a precedent for healthy communication. Remember, boundaries aren't just functional, they're attractive. They show confidence and self-respect, traits that naturally draw people toward you. Path to growth. Here's the truth about growth. It's messy, it's non-linear, but wow, is it worth it? Breaking out of old behaviors can feel like stepping into uncharted territory. But the reward? Becoming a more confident, authentic version of yourself, not just in relationships, but in every area of life. The process isn't about fixing yourself. It's about uncovering and developing your genuine worth. Personal growth starts with small actions. Maybe it's reading books on self-improvement or watching videos that resonate with your experience. Journaling is another powerful tool. Start by exploring questions like, what is my biggest fear in relationships? Or what do I bring to the table? Therapy can be game-changing too. A trained counselor can help you untangle deep-seated insecurities and replace self-doubt with sustainable confidence. And here's the best part. Growth is lifelong. There's no finish line, and you don't have to be perfect to have meaningful connections. Focus on progress over perfection. Celebrate moments where you respond with confidence or assert your boundaries, no matter how small. Keep showing up for yourself, and before long, you'll see the ripple effect of your efforts in your relationships and beyond. When it comes down to it, the goal isn't to chase perfection or fix yourself to fit someone else's expectations. It's about building meaningful, mutual connections based on trust, confidence, and authenticity. The phrases, behaviors, or patterns that might have held you back before don't define you. They're just learning opportunities to grow into the man you're meant to be. This isn't about rejecting the idea of being nice. It's about letting genuineness shine over surface-level impressions. You've got so much more to offer than empty pleasantries or excessive compromises. Women, just like anyone else, value a man who knows and respects himself, who shows up as a partner, not as a performer. Now's the time to take an honest look at yourself and consider where you can make small but impactful shifts. Are there habits you're ready to leave behind? Conversations you're excited to approach with more confidence? Lean into that growth. The more you invest in yourself, the more you'll attract people who are aligned with your authenticity. And here's the big takeaway: believe in your worth. The right relationships thrive when you've built them on a foundation of mutual respect, shared values, and balanced dynamics.